Okay, FAQ number 87. What about ballet and dance for Christian girls? Okay, we're going to start out here reading 1 Peter chapter 3. The first two verses there, it's talking about wives and their relationship to their husbands, but it's also really kind of showing proper actions for Christian women, be they girls or even older women as well. Look at verse 3. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 says, "Whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing of gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price." And I can tell you that ballet and dance violate those things. Putting on of apparel, wearing of gold, getting all fancy, dolled up and everything, and being meek and things. And you say, well, how do you know? You're not a woman. You've never been a young Christian girl. Well, I know that, and I'm thankful for that. But it turns out that I have an expert on the subject here who was actually very much involved in ballet and dance. And I'm going to show you the proof of it today. So we'll start out here with this picture. You can explain it. I'll show it. Move this thing down there so I can... Gotcha. Good.
All right. Dance Atlantic is the name of the dance agency in my hometown area, Atlantic, Iowa. That's why it's called Dance Atlantic. And this was a jazz routine. I don't remember the exact title of the song, but this is me right there. Obviously immodest. And if you take off that little strap thing, it would fit the definition of a Buddhist monk's uniform top.
Yeah.
You know.
If you've seen the Danger of Religious Uniforms video, you know what we're talking about. Down here we have another one.
This is my ballet routine that same year, and I'm right here, and, you know, I'm wearing makeup. It's kind of hard to tell, but, you know, lipstick for sure, blush, a little bit of blush. Again, my mother dolled me up, you know, hair and makeup and everything, and some of my classmates helped out with that. But look at the extremely immodest bodice. I mean, the huge, plunging, deep V right there. The form-fitting top, you can't really tell, you know, but
later.
Right, but then the see-through skirt, you know.
Yep. So, you know, and how can you defend this stuff if you're a Christian?
And this is the actual ticket, one of the tickets from Dance Fever of that year. Well, 1998, one of the years.
Yep.
Prior to 2000.
Okay.
Okay, that's the theme from that year. And there's my ballet of that year. See-through skirt, you know, knee-length see-through skirt. Oh yeah, that's real modest, you know. And plunging bodice neckline right here, form-fitting right here.
Yep.
And by the way, all these costumes are 100% synthetic fiber, which means they're flammable, and they are extremely, extremely uncomfortable and dehydrating when you're actually performing on stage. This is me in the middle. You know, another showing the belly type of immodest top, you know.
Yep.
Form-fitting, showing, accentuating the leg muscles there.
Nice 6-pointed star too. I'll have to add that.
This is another one of my ballet photos. One of my dance classmates. It was, if I'm not mistaken, at Sue Fisher's Photography in Atlantic, Iowa. That's where photos were usually taken. This is Space Jam's jazz outfit. You know, again, see-through belly area. You know, technically a low bodice neckline, even though it's see-through there. Form-fitting boy shorts. Gotta love that, you know. Pants in any way, shape, and form to include shorts underneath the skirt for a young girl is not modest. And this, ironically, is very prophetic. This was for the MIB theme song, Men in Black, jazz dance routine. The, quite prophetically speaking, this was a precursor to my initiation into the spook world years down the road, once I graduated high school. Yes.
Yeah. In case you don't know what a spook is basically military intelligence, essentially.
Another name for a Jeslick.
So.
This is a ballet routine. I don't remember the song offhand, but extremely modest neckline of the bodice. I was there in the front on the right hand side. This is me posing before or after the routine, and this over here was my ballet outfit that you saw earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I have braces, so if any of you are thinking about getting braces, don't do it. It causes lockjaw. Hello, I speak from experience.
Yep. And the interesting thing too is, which we were talking about, before we were doing this video, and it was funny because when she was young, she'd try to wear immodest clothing to high school, to fit in, peer pressure, the whole thing, and makeup and whatever else. And she was told, no, you're not allowed to wear that. And yet her parents themselves would dress her up with makeup and all the other immodest stuff to go to dance class and ballet. Mm-hmm. Kind of a double standard there,
Especially when my mother would tell me on one hand, oh, you're beautiful without makeup. You don't need to wear makeup. But then she would doll me up for things like this and, other formal events. They
mm-hmm.
never missed a social event in town.
Yep. But here we have another one.
Yep, this is, a classic example of a plunging neckline, although
yep.
not a V, form-fitting, above the knee skirt length, and
mm-hmm.
this was a ballet leotard
yep.
with a skirt.
And it goes way back into your past, even when mm-hmm. you were very little.
Right. This picture is from 1991, I believe February, if I'm not mistaken, of 1991. I dressed up in this outfit, and I was practicing a handstand / bridge. It was part of my tumbling routine at the time. It's also something that is done in gymnastics if you're thinking about getting involved in that, which I don't recommend. And every single outfit is immodest and very, very accentuating of your features.
Mm-hmm.
And this one right here, I had a friend over at the time in April of that same year, and, she and I are both wearing leotards, different styles, and, hose or tights, whichever one you want to call them, are purely synthetic fiber and flammable. And so, the point is none of these outfits that you see in these pictures thus far are modest.
No.
They all accentuate in different areas.
Okay, and then of course we have two more of the, what was it called, the show?
This is Saturday Night Fever.
Okay, so we have
the jazz routine.
This one.
Right, and I'm in the middle right here, and I'm also in the middle right there, accentuating again. The lower body part is accentuated, the stomach area is exposed and accentuated, and
yep.
A higher neckline, but still immodest.
Mm-hmm. And of course, people will say, "Well, yes, but they're just young girls and things like this and blah blah blah, and whatever else." But you have to ask the question: what does this stuff lead to? If you have your young daughter being involved in these things, what good is this going to do for her as a Christian woman later on when she gets married and things? And again, another thing that my wife was really into in the high school years, that this led her into it, was she wanted to be a model. And basically, the standard that you were told by, what was the deal?
A prospective agent from Texas asked me if I would perform a certain act with him through instant messenger.
Fornication.
Yes. And as a way of saying whether or not I would be accepted into his agency.
Mm-hmm.
And they also base all your body measurements, that you use to figure out if a certain type of apparel fits you or not. They use that to also determine whether or not they will accept you and hire you.
Yes. And see, that's a natural result of what's going on there. And don't try to tell me that it's art, okay, because that's where I can jump into the thing and say, coming from the art world, I know that, a lot of what is classified as art is actually just sexual perversion. Okay, a lot of the nude paintings and sculptures and other stuff like that, no. And see, this is performing arts, okay? And it all goes under that same thing. And I can tell you from being in art galleries and at art shows and things, there are sodomites and perverts and immodest clothing and whatever. The new age free love type of a philosophy is all through that world. And I was in that stuff before I was saved. So, don't act like, oh, see, you were saved and whatever. It's really bad. Should a Christian woman, and if you're homeschooling and your little daughter says, I'd kind of like to try ballet or something, you need to wake them up to the reality of ballet. And even if a girl could somehow wear a modest dress and whatever else and be up there dancing, dancing is forbidden in the Bible. Okay, you don't see that in the Bible. And you say, what about David dancing? David, when he danced, it was kind of just like a little happy. He's running through the streets, jumping up and down, and he's happy and clapping his hand and things. That's not a choreographed ballroom dancing, waltz, ballet performance. Okay, Christians centuries ago fought against dancing. They would go and protest dancing. They knew what it led to. They knew what that whole realm was. So, should they? What were you gonna say?
Well, doesn't ballet come from the 17th century royalty people, where the men of the royal court would do these ballet routines and stuff, and these fancy frilly outfits and.
Yeah, it was effeminate. It actually, a lot of the men that get involved in it are sodomite, but yeah, it actually, you're right. It actually started with a lot of the royal court, and the men were very, very effeminate, wearing a lot of lace and things like that. After King James came his son King Charles. King Charles he married a Catholic, which King James had forbidden, and he marries a Catholic, and he just got worse and worse and worse. The members of Parliament rose up. There was the English Civil War. The Parliament members defeated the Royalists, and then they took over and they got rid of King Charles II, King Charles I's son, and set up Oliver Cromwell as the Lord Protector. He didn't want to be called king because he said Christ, not man, is king. Was a great man in many ways, but after he died, his son Richard Cromwell, I think it was Richard, took over, and the Royalists rose up again, brought back in Charles II, and kicked out Richard Cromwell, and they actually went and dug up Oliver Cromwell's dead corpse and beheaded it and all kinds of weird stuff. And that court of King Charles II was into some seriously weird stuff. We're talking late 1600s. And they were into some real weird stuff. And that's when a lot of the immodest necklines started to come in for women. The King Charles II had multiple women that he was fornicating with, and it was known. I mean, the guy was a scumbag, and they started to get into a lot of perversion at that time. So yeah, you're right. Ballet goes back to that time period. So ballet for Christian and dance for Christian girls? Absolutely not.